This box is huge! What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm reviewing the FiiO FT3 over-ear headphones. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. Now, this box, look at the size of it. I know it's way too big for the shot, but I wanted to show you because honestly, the unboxing experience that you get with the FT3 is just unbelievable. It is such a premium experience. So let me tell you some things first. The price of these bad boys is $299, and inside they've got massive 60mm beryllium plated dynamic drivers. And look, the first experience you get when you actually get to the inner box, which is this one, it is such a premium feeling box. And then you get this, which looks a bit like a pirate's bounty or something like that. So you get this lovely velvet outer pouch, and inside of that pouch is, the piece de resistance, the faux leather carrying case, which is semi-rigid. It's just beautiful. It's got this stylish angled carrying strap on it like that. It is really, really nice just to look at, and it feels good too. But the real good stuff, well, for me anyway, the real good stuff comes inside in the form of the headphones, which should be in there like that. But here as well, this removable little strap. This is just so great. So look, first of all, you get a 4-pin XLR to 4.4mm adapter. Great, fantastic. Then you get the standard 3.5 to 6.35 adapter. Then you've got a 4.4mm Pentacon balanced termination. And you get the one that I have on the cable at the moment, which is your standard 3.5mm. So it's a beautiful modular cable, comes with all the terminations that you might need. So great little case. By the way, there are actually two sets of ear pads in the box. There are the default installed ones, which are suede. They feel really, really nice. And then you get these perforated protein leather ones as well. So it's great to have the option of two sets of ear pads. I prefer the suede ones, not only for comfort and coolness, but for the sound profile. Before we get further into the headphones though, I just want to have a quick look at this cable. It is a really nice cable. It's made up of Furukawa monocrystalline copper wires with 23 AWG diameter wires inside. So yeah, it's a really nice cable. It is 3 meters long, which some people have an issue with. I personally don't mind. I think that's great for the desktop. But let me show you. This is that modular termination. And I'm still not a huge fan of the way FiiO implements their modular system. You have to unscrew it first and then pull it out. I prefer more simple and easy methods, but it is effective. It does work. Anyway, that is a really nice cable. A bit long for some people, but the quality is excellent. And by the way, if you do go ahead and buy yourself a pair of FT3, you might get a different cable, because that one that I showed you was FiiO bought a whole bunch of them way back in, I think it was 2016, and they only had a couple of thousand in stock on hand, and they're discontinued now. So they said when these original cables run out, when they're out of stock, they will switch to a different one. Just something to keep in mind. But anyway, let's have a look at these headphones. Honestly, over-engineered. The build quality is fantastic. They are a little bit heavy. You'll notice that as soon as you pick them up, got them in your hand, you think, gee, that's a bit heavy. But they don't feel heavy on the head, partly due to this suspension style headband here. The clamping force is moderate. I'd say moderate and adequate. But for me, it doesn't clamp too tight on my head. I find these quite comfortable, and I forget about the weight. So this entire frame and the ear cups, even the spokes on the ear cups, is all lightweight aluminium. And you can see the mesh there. So these are an open back design headphone. You do get a little bit of swivel and a bit of pivot on the ear cups there, and so they conform nicely, naturally to the shape of your head. So overall, comfort is really good. The build quality is outstanding. Now we'll get straight onto the sound. First of all, you need some form of amplification to use these effectively, because they've got an impedance of 350 ohms, which is even more than the Sennheiser, HD600s, HD650s, etc. So 350 ohms, you definitely need a fairly beefy audio source to get the most out of these, because they are pretty darn hard to drive. So most dongle DACs probably not adequate. It depends on so many things, like the quality of your recording, how loud you listen to your own music, etc. It's going to depend on that. But some of the more powerful DACs, especially ones with a balanced output, can sufficiently drive these, but most aren't really up to the task. You need something like a high quality DAP, or a dedicated battery powered portable amplifier, or a proper desktop unit. Regarding tonal balance, the FT3 leans towards sort of neutrality without imparting any noticeable coloration. It sort of balances precision and richness, and it'll sort of treat you to a nice crisply defined sound with notable resolution and substantial body. So for the bass, I would say the bass is pretty substantial. It's quite powerful, finely detailed, and skillfully tamed. But remember, you need that amplification to get that full bass response. Now, while the bass has sufficient impact and weight, bona fide bass heads definitely should seek alternatives, because the FT3 aims at balance rather than a sort of a wow factor. And for the majority of listeners, I think the quantity of bass should be sufficient. But yeah, bass heads seek something else. The lows deliver plenty of impetus and rhythmic verve to the music, particularly when using these suede ear pads. Now, with the protein leather pads in place, the bass sort of takes a slight step back, and the fundamental tonality shifts slightly upwards. So the bass reduces a bit, the mid-range and the treble come a little more forward. And that's a good option for those who prefer a little more bite in the treble and in the upper mid-range. And speaking of the mid-range, that's kind of the FT3's bread and butter. Not so much because the mids are boosted, although there is definitely a lift in the upper mids, but because the bass and the treble are relatively neutral in terms of quantity, and as a result, the mid-range is rather forward. Not so up front that it becomes dominant, but it is quite prominent. Mid-range instruments and vocals are presented with a neutral tone, but just warm enough to sound organic and natural. There's a good sense of spaciousness in the width, especially in the width of the stage, and a subtle breathy quality to the mids that enhance their transparency and details. When it comes to treble, it's simultaneously crisp and resolving. It's fairly smooth and unabrasive, and while its capacity for detail retrieval is pretty good, there are subtle micro details that remain just out of reach, and the treble maintains a fairly pleasing timbre. It's devoid of any sizzle or glare, ensuring a comfortable presentation, and this quality is further enhanced by the FT3's open back design, which contributes to its fairly airy treble, creating an extra sense of spaciousness and depth. And let's dig into those technicalities a little bit now. And, often the first thing people think about when they hear open back is like, wow, soundstage. And it's true that open back phones can produce a large stage, but it's definitely not always the case. And in the case of the FT3, the soundstage has fairly average dimensions, but its strength lies in the stage's authenticity. And what I mean is it just feels real. It is a fairly wide stage on these. The instrument and vocal notes have good density, and this in turn with the speed of the driver facilitates strong imaging performance. making it easy to pinpoint the location of not only elements in music, but also enemies if you are into computer games. Now it's time for some comparisons, and naturally I couldn't do this without bringing in the Sennheiser HD650s here. So HD650 is costs a little bit more. It's about $350, I think, compared to $300. When you open the box, with the Sennies, you basically get the headphones and the cable, and that's it. I think there is a little 6.35 to 3.5 millimeter adapter in there as well, but it's a very utilitarian experience, whereas the FiiO FT3 unboxing, as I showed you, is just what it's kind of like, wow. At least that's what was in my mind. And see how complex my mind works? I thought, wow. No, it is a really fantastic unboxing experience, and the accessory bundle that you get with the FT3 is out of this world. So the HD650 has got 42mm dynamic drivers, significantly smaller than the FT3, and the Sennheisers have a slightly darker tone, with similar bass quantity and impact in the bass. However, the mid-range on the HD650s is warmer. I think the overall resolution, especially in the mid-range of the HD650s, is better compared to the FiiO. Mid-range notes are more rounded on the Sennheiser, a bit more rounder, softer and fuller, yet it maintains a similar level of instrument separation. Furthermore, the HD650 has more relaxed upper mid-range and always bears a calm demeanor, whereas the FT3 occasionally exhibits some shoutiness in the presence region, especially when you do have a powerful source and you decide to sort of bump up that volume a bit. These can get a little bit awkward. The Sennheisers have a very relaxed treble that is well defined but definitely laid back. In comparison, the FT3 has a more forward treble response, not really boosted that much, pretty neutral still, but that gives the FiiO a brighter tonality, more clarity than the HD650, and crisper transients as well. But as a result, there's a little less focus on the mid-range, which is where the HD650 truly shines. Now, the HD650's soundstage is not quite as wide as the FiiO, but it has more depth and more height. And while the FT3 might pick up just slightly more micro details, the HD650 has more precise imaging and placement due to its more natural rounded stage with improved depth. So I would say without a doubt the HD650 is still the better headphone, but remember it does cost more, and with the FT3 you're getting a much more generous accessory bundle. Now for another comparison, here we have the Sivga Luan. Now the Luan here comes in exactly the same price, it's $299. It's got 50mm dynamic drivers. Now the Luan's frame and the overall design, it seems a lot simpler compared to the sort of over-engineered design of the FT3. And this one does feel premium for the price. It feels good in the hand, but not as premium as the FT3. You just hold this and it's like, it's on a different level in terms of construction. But in regards to the sound signature, these two headphones, they're actually quite alike when it comes to tuning. They're both sort of reasonably neutral with a boosted upper mid-range for that extra sort of presence and a little more brightness and clarity. The main difference, at least to my ears, is the FT3's added control and composure under load. The Luan is a great performer and it is much easier to power. Like you can actually run these straight out of a smartphone or any low powered dongle. But the FT3's high impedance means it stays more consistent when pushed to the limit, and it has, less distortion when you push it harder. The Luan feels much lighter when you're wearing it and has more spacious ear cups as well. So if you've got huge ears, you might be interested in that one. Although I find that my ears do get hot pretty quickly with the Luan, a bit faster than they do on the FT3. So they are both a pretty good option in that price range. So that is the FT3, the FiiO FT3. And to sum up, look, this is FiiO's first attempt at a full-size headphone, except for those not so great Bluetooth headphones they did a few years ago. So I should say FiiO's first attempt at a wired, full-sized over-ear headphone, and I think they've done a pretty great job. Especially the build is unreal. I wouldn't mind if they were a little bit lighter in weight. Perhaps they could replace this aluminium with a bit of plastic, polycarbonate or something. But like I said, they are pretty comfortable. And in terms of sound, these do sound good. They are not the greatest thing under the sun in terms of sound. Like I think some of those more affordable Beyerdynamics, perhaps the Fidelios, are comparable when it comes to audio quality. But overall, considering the audio quality, I think these are sitting around just the right price, especially considering the overall bundle. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, Parfam Audiophile style. If you're new here and you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'll see you later.